Alright, so making a little balloon video here after some requests. Sitting here at Naval in port. It does take a dock slot. It's a redeemable. Every 24 hours, just like any other DLC ship. And I'm sailing from Naval Right. So it starts off, when you first come out of port, it's stationary. It's the only time it's ever going to be stationary, because it just gets blown around by the wind. This number in the middle of your HUD up here, that's your current altitude. So we're at 10 meters, just above the surface. And at surface, the wind matches the regular blue surface wind that for ship sailing, but the red indicator shows what the wind is doing at your altitude. So as soon as we start going up, that will start to change. And here I'm at 10 meters, and we can see it tells you what the wind is doing above you or below you. And so right now we've got a westerly wind, but if I go up to about 200 meters or so, it'll change to northwest. W key to increase altitude, S key to decrease altitude. And see, when we get up here, the wind has changed. And it doesn't immediately stop either. You know, it kind of slows down, so it's hard to hit an exact altitude. But so the surface wind is west, but at 200 meters it's northwest, so we're getting blown up that way. And we can see now that the wind right above us, if we go up another 100 meters, will be straight north. So I want to go to Veracruz. That is due west from here, which means I need to increase altitude to go all the way up so that it is cycled back around to north again. That's what I'm doing now. And it's not a random change. It's like the wind goes in a corkscrew as you increase altitude. It's a predictable thing. You know, we went from north around to south, now southwest. And then, okay, so we need to be at about 2,000 feet, or meters rather, to hit that west wind we want. Excuse me, 1,000. So now we got our wind blowing us the way we want. Now, this is plenty fine for over the water, but as we approach land anywhere, we may have to go up again to get over the hills and stuff. And if you just leave it alone, you very gradually lose altitude, which can change your wind direction again. So you have to keep watching that. See, we're slowly decreasing in altitude, so the wind is kind of curving back around to the southwest again. We'll just give it a little pop there, back up. And now we've got and now it's kind of gone back the other direction. We're a little bit northwest. You can also use your A and D keys to tweak it a little bit, left or right. You can't go any direction you want, but you can kind of slide to the left or right of the main wind a little bit. So right now if I press A, that gets you about a 30 degree to the left. And then same D key for the right. So you can kind of fine tune your heading a little bit that way too. And then if you, anyway, so most of the time, it can vary some, but somewhere in the 30 knot range in open world. So it's fairly fast. It's not as fast as like a tricked out, you know, New England fur T-Lynx or anything like that. But of course, you can ignore land and shallows too. So on some routes, if there's a lot of land in the way, the balloon could conceivably be faster than any ship could be, just because it can go in a straight line. I know for sure it will go over islands and shallows, of course. I do not know if it will go over continental land masses, which is part of the reason I'm going to Veracruz. Because just to see if the balloon will go all the way across Yucatan. I think it will, but I don't know that. So for example, if you were going from like Santo Domingo to Willemstad across all open water, no, it's not going to be as fast as a T-Lynx. But if you're going to someplace down in the bottom of the Gulf of Mexico, like, you know, from here, you can just go right over Cuba and Yucatan. I think. It's part of what this test is. Or even better, let's say you want to go from San Augustine to New Orleans. Well, this obviously is a lot better than that, no matter how fast your ship is. Yeah, and I was talking on the map, so I descended down into the southwest band. Now I gotta tweak it back up a little bit. Get that chat window out of the way. So there's Jamaica. We should be passing what is that? Port Antonio right here, I think. Yeah. So the regular wind, as we all know, it shifts gradually counterclockwise on the surface, like it has for years and years. One tick every 2 minutes. I haven't flown this balloon too much, but as far as I can tell, I don't think the same thing happens with higher altitude winds for balloon purposes. because you can see that the surface wind has shifted about 45 degrees since we left La Navas. But here in this band I'm at, it's still due west. The shifts that occasionally occur are not coming because the wind is shifting. It's coming because your altitude is slowly always changing, because you have to give it a little gas periodically. Or a little hot air, you know what I mean. You do collide with hills. You run into them and it will stop you cold. You know, I have heard people say that they have just flown through some hills. I can't say that that doesn't happen, but I can tell you it hasn't happened to me. It's going to push me northwest a little bit, but I'm going to make sure I get over this hill here. Actually, you can go up to about 3,000 meters, I hear. I've been up to 29. So rather than play with just skirting over the edge, I'm just going to go all the way up until I hit another west wind. 3,000 meters is good for... It looks like the complete compass of wind is something like 1,000, maybe 1,200 meters. So there's actually multiple bands of a westerly wind. So I'm just going to go all the way back up here until I get to it on the west. Almost there. Looks like about 2,200. Yeah, that works. It's way high enough to get all the way across Jamaica. Also, the radius around a port or pier where you get the inner port button at the top of the screen, that goes all the way up. Whenever I get to somewhere I want to stop in a port, I don't have to go all the way back down to the surface. As long as I hit that radius, I can join from altitude, or inner port from altitude. So anyway, It only has, here you go. It only has a 10 weight hold and only 2 slots. So that's obviously pretty limited. With the new trade goods, though, there are quite a few that are pretty lucrative, but very, very lightweight. For example, Arabian books, Chinese books, Madagascar jewels, stuff like that. I mean, they weigh 0.01. So you can carry those in these quite a lot. I don't know if that makes them particularly useful. Yeah, here's a good example. Let me see. I'm not going to land here, but see if I can hit the Savannah Lamar interport. There we go. So if I just interport right here, pop, just pops me right down. I don't have to descend. There you go. You can click on ships to get their identities from up in the air. I can see we're on PvP. That might be useful. Maybe use balloon for scouting or whatever, I guess. And then of course it's not attackable. It cannot even enter a battle instance, whether you want to or not. So because of that, they're invulnerable in PvP. So for carrying those small pricey items, I guess there is a pretty good use for these things. Our server is just pretty much a toy. Anyway, that's about all I can think of to talk about the balloon. So, and it's just pretty much empty ocean for a long way here. I'm not going to make an hour-long video. Anyway, that's what balloons are about.